welcome to Rockingham for the second round of the BRSCC Mazda MX-5 SuperCup. With changeable weather conditions and a packed grid, we're sure to see some exciting racing. Alan Henderson currently leads the championship with 2 points from JJ Clements. I'm now going to hand you over to Andy for the rest.
Thanks, Amber. So just a slender points lead for Alan Henderson, with Simon Goddard, Liam Murphy and George Lyne all just a handful of points behind the leading two. Slightly further down the order though, several novices have been making their debut in the Super Cup this year.
He's really good, he's unbelievable, you know. I didn't think there was going to be this many drivers in the MX-5. I know the grids have gone up year by year. I've got 34 on the grid today, so it's really good and really close racing. There's not much in it at all, so it's really good. It's going to be a tight championship.
Oh, it's a very competitive championship. It's quite daunting, really. The fast guys are really fast, and that's good because, you know, we get good coverage. The guys are really good, the cars are really good. We now, you know, it's a great championship to be in. So to be a part of it's fantastic. You can still learn at the back whilst the fast guys are doing their thing, but it gives you a good target to go at. And it's a few years off for me yet, I think, but yeah, it's just good to have something to aim to. But those guys, yeah, they're pretty impressive.
Seems like a bit of a baptism of fire because it's like so competitive and like so many cars, but I'm really enjoying it and it's good fun. So actually, from watching the races on YouTube, yeah, that's what made me want to do this, because the racing's so close. I just wanted to join in. So.
A lot of people did the go-karting, but I actually learned kind of a lot of the craft through online sim racing, so racing in leagues on a weekly basis, and I learned a lot of the tracks are in the UK and a lot of different cars, and got used to the kind of feel of it. It's been a nice transition because in the sim you get less of the indicators of feel for the car, because you just have the visual and maybe a bit of force feedback through the steering wheel. But in real life you can feel it all in the car. You can see it. There's a lot more different indicators, so it's actually helped a lot me get used to a more difficult environment, you could say, and it's made the transition really comfortable.
It's just good fun. It's just, you know, something to do, something exciting to do with cars. So yeah, it's just a good thing to do. In films, TV, commercials, I've done quite a bit. And in fact, Paul O'Neill, who's racing today, I've done a commercial with him, and we raced in reverse around the docks in Barcelona. I won, but I don't think it will be the same outcome today, unfortunately. But yeah, I've done some quite big films and stuff. I've been really lucky with that, and yeah, it all helps with the racing, keeps me on my toes and gets me ready for anything that might happen out there.
So here is the grid then for the first race of the day here at Rockingham. It's championship leader Alan Henderson from guest driver Paul O'Neill on the front row, with Murphy and Blake Baldwin row 2. JJ Clements alongside John Munro, who had a cracking qualifying to get 6th on the grid. Further back, watch for the likes of Will Chappell and Jack Harding, who has had steering difficulties this weekend, to make some progress from slightly lowly grid positions down on the 8th and 9th row respectively, all the way down then to the back row of what is a packed grid, with Robin Marriott in 33rd place. A capacity grid then here at Rockingham, and slippery conditions for this first race. Now this place is treacherous as soon as you get a slight bit of moisture on the road, so some tricky conditions for the drivers out there, but we are away and racing. You can see them scrabbling for grip. It's a good start from James Blake Baldwin, terrible start from Liam Murphy from the inside of row number 2, but it is going to be the championship leader then Alan Henderson from Blake Baldwin in 2nd, Paul O'Neill is 3rd, and then 3 abreast for 4th. That is JJ Clements sliding through on the inside line. He nudges the back of John Davies' car, but they both survive and head up towards the Dean Hairpin for the first time. Now, as if that wasn't hard enough, this is where we often see a lot of drama at the start of the races. Henderson hangs on, but Paul O'Neill goes for 2nd place. Adam Brindle running a little bit wide further back in the pack. Well, O'Neill went for 2nd, he got it, and now he's going for the lead on the inside into Yentwood. Alan Henderson, though, finds the grip around the outside line, hangs on. JJ Clements doesn't find much grip on the painted curb, though. You need to stay away from those in these conditions. Paul O'Neill's inside line really not working at all, because not only does he lose his opportunity to take the lead, but James Blake Baldwin finds a way through into 2nd place as well. Through Piff Path down towards the double apex left-hander at Kirby. This is a possible overtaking opportunity, but it's really all about the run up the hill towards Gracelands, and that looks like that's what JJ Clements is thinking about doing. Yes, beautifully done, cuts back to the inside line. Oh, Gary Townsend's had a moment towards the back of the field into Gracelands, and yes, through he goes. So 3rd place now then for JJ Clements. Oh, but make that 2nd because the race leader's off. Alan Henderson off at Gracelands into the gravel trap now. Can he keep it going? Can he get it out of there? I think he can. can, but he's going to fall all the way to the back of the field. Alan Henderson has really blotted his copybook here at Rockingham on the first lap of the race. Well, I said it was treacherously slippery, this place, and Alan Henderson, the first car into each of these corners as race leader on the opening lap, has found just how slippery it can be and has headed through the gravel trap. So he rejoins, but a long way back. This is the fight for 5th place. Simon Goddard started 13th. He's just gone round the outside of Adam Brindle, though, and moves into the top 5. So dramatic opening lap of racing here at Rockingham. This is the fight for the lead. It is James Blake Baldwin leading the way. JJ Clements is in 2nd place, with Paul O'Neill, John Davies, Goddard and Adam Brindle rounding out the top 6, but surely the move is on as they head down towards the hairpin. No, Clements decides to just settle in behind the reigning Mark 1 champion. Both of these are Mark 1 graduates. They both run very wide, and Paul O'Neill has a bit of a cheeky look at the inside line, but couldn't quite find a way through. John Davies is there keeping a watching brief in 4th position as they head up towards Yentwood for the 2nd time, and it looks as though, unlike what Alan Henderson managed to do at Silverstone last time around, no one is escaping in the opening race of the day, and indeed we have another change for the lead because JJ Clements has now completed his charge to the front of the field, takes the lead away. Oh, and Liam Murphy, another one of the pre-race favourites. He started from the inside of row 2, had a dreadful start, and things have now gone well and truly from bad to worse. He's off in the gravel. That looked like the Tarzan hairpin, and not sure whether the suspension was deranged there, but he certainly had found his way into the gravel trap, and that will now prompt the safety car because that car is in a dangerous position. So there is the safety car then. It picks up the race leader. Seeing a replay here of Jack Harding heading through the pit path. Oh, and a big spin for Liam Murphy in front of him. Harding had to take to the grass, and so Murphy had already had one spin and then later found the gravel. Out of the final corner comes the field. The safety car is in the pit lane, and we are racing once more then with still 11.5 minutes to go here at Rockingham, and JJ Clements, your race leader, gets a good start. The windscreen wipers working back and forth for the 2nd place man, James Blake Baldwin, as he tries to deal with the spray being kicked up. James gets very sideways heading through the banking. That is a terrifying corner at the best of times, let alone when it gets a bit damp and greasy. Look towards the Dean hairpin. He is not close enough to attack the race lead. That is George Grant, who's found the gravel trap. Looked like that was down at the Tarzan hairpin. Side by side though, as Paul O'Neill looks to the inside for 2nd place on James Blake Baldwin, but couldn't quite make it stick on that occasion. Now this is Alan Henderson in the white AK Automotive car number 90. He's worked his way back into the top 20. His next target is Andy Bailey, and that is the car that Abby Eaton drove to the championship last year. Andy just getting to grips with it in the early stages of the 2015 season, but he's got the championship leader coming into this weekend, Alan Henderson, right in behind him. Down towards the Dean hairpin we go once more in the fight for 2nd place, and Paul O'Neill gets through. He's got his nose ahead. He leans on James Blake Baldwin. He gets edged out onto the curb in the grass, and there is no grip there. He gets very sideways, and Paul O'Neill goes 2nd. Now what can he do about the race leader then, because JJ Clements is quite a long way up the road. Here's a replay. He got to the first apex first. He held the inside line. The car just drifts out a little bit wide, and well, there's a little bit of paint traded, but that is a good racing manoeuvre, I think, for Paul O'Neill, and he moves into 2nd place. We are about to start what will be the last lap, and you can see that Alan Henderson is not that far, sorry, JJ Clements is not that far ahead of Paul O'Neill. There are the leaders. There is James Blake Baldwin. Simon Goddard with a good run here in 4th place after a bit of a disappointing qualifying. But as they start the last lap, it is JJ Clements leading the way. Paul O'Neill is coming for him, though. That gap is coming down. You can see how Paul is able to pull away from James Blake Baldwin. Fastest lap of the race, in fact, for Paul O'Neill, who took 2 race wins last year when he guested in the championship at Alton Park. And he's looking for 3 from 3. He's got his work cut out, though, because it's one thing catching, but very much another thing finding a way through. It's an old cliche, I know, but it's absolutely true. Down towards the Dean hairpin come the leading quartet. Blake Baldwin it is, who is very shortly, I think, going to have to fend off the attentions of Simon Goddard. Adam Brindle is into 5th place now, and 6th place, and worth a mention, I think, in car number 47, is Simon Traves in the Traves Motorsport T&L Garage Services sponsored machine, who's managed to work his way into 6th place. That's a great drive from him. Alan Henderson, you could see there, down in 11th place, so there is a chance that he could find his way into the top 10, but that's not the result he was hoping for. Leaders head towards Gracelands for the final time, and it's Clements leading the way still from Paul O'Neill in 2nd place. There's a little bit of traffic ahead. It looked like it might have been Ray Worley in the number 40 machine, but I don't think they're quite going to catch him, so that's one less thing for JJ Clements to worry about. Paul O'Neill is closing all the time, visibly with each corner. He's getting closer to the rear end of the number 88 machine, but I'm not sure he's quite going to get there in time. They will indeed encounter Ray Worley. They find a way through on the run down towards the Brook chicane, or at least the race leader does, and that pretty much settles it. I think JJ Clements has driven a brilliant race. He was aggressive early on, he managed the gap once he pulled out after the safety car, and through the final corner comes JJ Clements to take the race win here in race 1 of the weekend at Rockingham. Round 3 of the championship goes to JJ Clements, and second place for Paul O'Neill. He pushed him all the way, just needed maybe an extra lap or so to get right onto terms with the race leader. James Blake Baldwin set third, fourth place Simon Goddard, and fifth position as they cross the line will be Simon Traves. Simon Traves is going to take fifth place from that race. A fantastic drive from Simon, and one that I'm sure he will be extremely pleased with. So a dramatic race then, several of the pre-race favourites hitting trouble, but not JJ Clements, who won the second race at Silverstone last time out, and he will now move into the championship lead going into this afternoon's second race. Confirmation of the result then. Paul O'Neill is only a second behind JJ Clements at the line. Blake Baldwin, then Simon Goddard and Simon Traves round out the top 5. Will Chappell managed to get himself into 7th place, I noticed there. Further back, struggling a little bit, Jack Harding down in 18th place. I'd have expected more from him, but as I mentioned, he's had steering issues all weekend. Jonathan Greensmith 22nd after dramas as well during that race, and Ray Worley, Robin Marriott and Annalise Ferrari all one lap down at the flag.
JJ, you've just come first. Talk me through your performance.
Got off to an okay-ish start. It's the first time launching it in the wet, but I think we dropped down to about 6th. Managed to make the positions up in the infield, hooked onto the back of James. Thought we spoke before, we might try and push each other around for a few laps, try and get a bit of a gap, but felt I had a bit more pace, so I just overtook him and started to drive away. It's a pretty relaxed race until the last few laps, and the tyres started to get a bit hot, and Paul O'Neill made a break from James and started to catch me. But no, it was a good race.
Yeah, it was one to talk about, really. Had a decent start from second place, but the second phase of me started, lots of wheel spin, and it was a nightmare getaway, and a lot of people passed me. Then the leader went off, and then I was left battling with the two lads for first and second. And then I got down the hairpin, got down the inside. I think it was James, it might have been, that I got down the inside of. And then, yeah, we ran together to the next corner, but we just had a touch of contact, and then I got away from him, and then it was drying up, and then, yeah, I cracked on and finished second, but I didn't see the last lap board, so I should have pushed a bit harder, but it's not my championship to start, getting really involved with people, so it was a good race, though, it was good.
Got an absolutely blinding start and managed to get to well, just behind Alan Henderson, and then Alan went off on the first lap and was leading for a bit, but JJ was behind me and he passed me, and I just couldn't quite keep with him, so yeah, I managed to hold on, and then Mr. O'Neill came past, and yeah, it was sort of a battle to the line, really.
Hello and welcome back to Rockingham. The cars are on the grid for race 2, but first let's take a look at some of the drama from race 1. George Grant ran wide and found the water splash at the Dean hairpin, and Annalise Ferrari looped her car at Tarzan. Simon Traves ran wide at the Dean hairpin too, whilst Jack Harding made the save of the day, displaying wonderful car control with this moment at the pit path. Johnny Greensmith ran straight on at Dean, losing handfuls of time rejoining the track, and Jim Hart nearly had the same issue whilst fighting with Jeremy Crook. This contact between Simon Traves and Adam Brindle earned Simon a grid penalty for race 2. And then, of course, there was Alan Henderson throwing away the race lead on the opening lap at Gracelands.
Just pushing probably just too hard on the first lap and ran wide onto the grass and had to straighten up and go all the way through the gravel. Rejoined in 29th, and then it was picking them off. Got back up to 9th. So it's a good place to start for the next race. Should be a fight. I'm going to be pushing for a podium, I think. Going off qualifying times, I was a fair bit faster than the cars immediately in front of us. So hopefully within the first couple of laps I'll be able to get past a couple at least, and then hopefully not be too far away from the leaders.
20 minutes again the duration, and it's JJ Clements from Paul O'Neill then the front row. Away we go. The track is now mercifully drier than it was this morning as they head down towards the first corner. It looks like Simon Goddard made a good start from the outside of the second row, but tucks in behind the leading three. And look at the white car of Alan Henderson. What a start he's made round the outside at turn 1. He is already up into the 4th position, heading in towards the Dean hairpin. Side by side for the lead then. O'Neill round the outside of JJ Clements. Alan Henderson very late on the brakes, taps the back of the former British Touring Car race winner and may have made his way into second place. He has. What a storming start from the man who led the championship coming into this weekend. So it's Clements from Henderson, from Paul O'Neill and James Blake Baldwin, your top 4. John Davies looks like he's 5th. And, well, these two had a great scrap in race 1, didn't they? O'Neill and James Blake Baldwin. It looks like battle is rejoined once more here at Rockingham in the second race. The cars are visibly more lively and quicker through the circuit in these much drier conditions for the second race of the weekend. Round 4 of the championship is being led, though, by the man who has won the last 2 races. JJ Clements won last time out at Silverstone, is leading the way here again after a win this morning at Rockingham. And he's got Alan Henderson all over him. Alan determined to make up for his drama in race 1. He looks to the inside line into the Tarzan hairpin, but he's a bit too far back on this occasion. On board then with the championship leader, JJ Clements gets very sideways in front of him and through we go. Well, that was a bird's eye view of just how little traction there was for the erstwhile race leader coming out of the Tarzan hairpin. Now, this is on board with Jack Harding, and there's drama in front of him. That is the number 7 car of Ray Grimes being tagged into a spin on the exit of Kirby. And he now drops towards the back of the field. Alan Henderson already weaving this way and that to try and break the slipstream, as it's a leading quintet of cars, because behind Alan Henderson, Paul O'Neill, JJ Clements and James Blake Baldwin, John Davies is going with them this time. You can really see the slipstream starting to take effect, and then they fan out as they hit the brakes down towards the Dean hairpin. Clements goes round the outside of Paul O'Neill, who's now going to try and tuck it back up the inside of the race leader, Alan Henderson, on the exit of the corner. Good driving that, showing his experience is Paul O'Neill there. He gets up alongside Alan Henderson into Yentwell, but it's the wrong side of the road, and JJ Clements shows his tenacity because he slips through on the inside. Great opportunistic driving from the championship leader, and through into second place goes JJ Clements. Does he complete the manoeuvre? Yes, he does. And Paul O'Neill now has to watch out, because this is an ever-growing group of cars, because now tagged onto the back of it is Simon Goddard, who made a good start and then dropped back a little bit in the early going. This is on board with Alan Henderson at the start. You can see his initial launch off the line was strong, then he gets in a little bit of the slipstream from Goddard in front of him, and Henderson just drives around the outside. It's so hard to defend on a circuit this wide, and if you get a good start like that, you can just drive around the outside line. Then cuts back to the inside on James Blake Baldwin. A little bit of paint traded with Paul O'Neill, and through into second. Then, of course, he took advantage of that moment at Tarzan for JJ Clements to snatch the race lead before the end of lap 1. He's not escaping, though. Clements is going with him, and Paul O'Neill is very much going with him. He looks to the inside line, forces Clements to defend. Then O'Neill goes to the outside instead, and again Henderson leaves the inside line open and clambering over the curb. It allows JJ Clements alongside briefly, but he can't quite make that one stick. Look at them ducking and diving. This is fantastic racing. This is what the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup is all about. Close quarters, committed racing, but the drivers showing each other a lot of respect as well. JJ Clements trying desperately to find a way through. He knows that if you give Alan Henderson an opportunity to escape out in front, he will do, and James Blake Baldwin pulling off the road. I don't believe it. More mechanical trouble for James. Just about everything that could go wrong with that car went wrong at Silverstone. It looks like he's run into more drama here at Rockingham. So that has sort of allowed the leading group to split up slightly. Henderson just starting to make a bit of a break from this fight for second place. JJ Clements and Paul O'Neill absolutely tied together. A defensive line is taken by JJ Clements, so Paul O'Neill says, okay, then I'll go right the way around the outside. Is he going to make that one stick? I'll be amazed if he does. He does! Paul O'Neill right around the outside of JJ Clements. What a move that was from Paul. And now, once more, he's into second place, but he's got there a little bit quicker in this run than he managed it in the opening race. So he's got a bit more time to maybe try and escape and chase after Alan Henderson. Well, it was Clements who was able to break the toe and pull out to a fairly comfortable victory in race 1. Now Henderson's trying it. Oh, big spin for the number 69 of George Grant. Well, he went off there in the first race, and he's made it 2 from 2 now. This is Johnny Greensmith going up the inside of Will Chappell into the Brook chicane. Good move from Johnny, who's getting more and more acclimatised to this Mark III machinery. He was a little bit underwhelming at Silverstone, but Johnny is now fighting his way back through the pack. And looking for a good result here. That was a bit of a dive bomb move, wasn't it, for Gary Townsend up the inside of Jim Hart, who then clouts the rear right corner of him and spins himself out. So that was all a little bit clumsy at Tarzan, wasn't it? Townsend made the move stick. Jim Hart tried to get the switchback manoeuvre up the inside on the exit and rather misjudged where the front of his car was, I think, and ran into the back of Gary Townsend, who's now weaving backwards and forwards to see if there's any damage to the suspension. In behind him is Andy Coombs. And then a whole gaggle of cars. Ray Grimes, Annalise Ferrari. There's the 71 machine of Jeff Gurrier, who had a spin in race 1. More fighting through the pack. There's Jack Harding. He's found a way past James Aspinall. And then trades a little bit more paint as they head up towards the right-hander at Yentwood. The car on his right-hand side is Ben Webster, a novice. So 2 rookie drivers getting themselves together here with just a couple of laps to go. Back up the inside goes Jack Harding, and this is what's so impressive about Jack Harding. Remember, this is his 4th ever race in a car, and he's displaying wonderful racecraft, able to really use the track and find the perfect line to find a way through. Great stuff. Adam Brindle now having to defend from Johnny Greensmith as they head up through the Brook chicane and back out onto the banking to start what will be the penultimate lap. But Alan Henderson is on his final lap. He's heading through Tarzan, and it's not quite the dominant sort of victory we saw from him last time out at Silverstone, but it's still fairly comfortable. Paul O'Neill has made good his escape from JJ Clements in their scrap for 2nd place, so it looks like the podium positions are set, and Alan Henderson strikes back after a disappointment in race 1 with that uncharacteristic mistake at Gracelands. He fights back in the perfect way. Alan Henderson exits the final corner, crosses the line and takes the checkered flag. Win number 2 of the season for Alan. Paul O'Neill takes a pair of 2nd place finishes, not quite as good as his pair of wins at Alton Park last year, but he'll be happy nonetheless. With JJ Clements 3rd and John Davies with a good showing in 4th place. Simon Goddard will cross the line in 5th, and this is the scrap further back with Jack Harding still fighting off James Aspinall. And it looks as though that's Russell Tamplin in the mix as well. Yes, it is. And they're going to have a bit of a drag race to the line. Can Harding hang on? Aspinall pulls to the inside line. They come across the line, and it was very close, but I think Jack Harding just about got it. So fighting right towards the line. Yes, he did. That was for 14th place. Jack Harding from James Aspinall and Russell Tamplin in that order across the line. But it's Alan Henderson with the race win. Paul O'Neill 3.6 seconds back this time in 2nd with Clements, Davies and Goddard. George Lyon got into 6th place by the end of it, and Johnny Greensmith gets himself a top 10 finish as well. Justin Newnham will be a bit disappointed with an 11th place there. Jack Harding 14th, and James Aspinall, as we mentioned, just behind him in the 15th spot. Further down the order, the likes of Andy Bailey, Jeff Gurrier, Jim Hart, all missing out on the top 20. But it was a race victory for Alan Henderson, and that will tighten up the championship standings quite considerably after 4 races this year.
Couldn't have asked for a better start, really. I think I was in 2nd or 3rd by this time I got round the 2nd corner. Just got a good start and got in the slipstream and just like swung round everybody just with the extra bit momentum I gained. Then got past JJ, I can't remember where. I think he went sideways somewhere when it was a little bit damp, and then it was just kind of trying to do what I did in qualifying. We were all quite close, and in one particular lap I got a bit of a gap, and then after that it just seemed to grow just like little by little every lap. So yeah, brilliant.
So it's JJ Clements who leaves Rockingham as the championship leader, but only just. Alan Henderson and Simon Goddard are not far back, and neither are George Lyon and Adam Brindle, as the series heads to the next 2 races at Castle Combe.
Fantastic weekend's racing here at Rockingham for the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup. Join us next time at Castle Combe.